Hello and welcome to episode 80 of the Gauntlet podcast. This is Rich.
I'm Lowell.
And I'm Stove. Oh, no, sorry, you guys. I forgot my name. Forgot my name for a second there.
Bastard. Jason will not be joining us tonight. He had some family matters to take care of, so we will soldier on without him. I understand that there's this Cheat Your Adventure game that we've talked about a number of times, but Steve, you've got something new to add, so bring it. Tell us about Cheat Your Own Adventure.
So yes, we have talked about Cheat Your Own Adventure a number of times, so I'll keep this fairly brief. It replicates, choose your own adventure stories quite well. And lately the Gauntlet has just sort of abandoned altogether the base premise where you're going on, it's like adventure fiction for kids. That used to be the intro game of that, and it works so well in other modes that I think we're not even pretending anymore. And what we did this time around, we did a couple of different ones. We didn't have a plan for one of them. And so what we did was I pulled out some of the Rory story cubes, if you guys are familiar with those.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And for people who aren't, they're sets of 6-sided dice with symbols on each face, frequently sold in like themed sets. Like I have I think prehistoric set and a medical set or something like that. But anyway, I pulled out a few of those, and I think we sort of took turns grabbing 4 from, various sets and just rolling them and trying to make sense of of what it came up with. And it worked really well for this. We had a very bizarre opening premise and decided to sort of run with it and see where it took us. I said took us. Okay. I am now the Jewish Beavis and Butthead. He said took us. Okay. So what we ultimately ended up going with was, I don't remember which symbols got me there, but I came up with the idea of basically these bizarre, jaded time travelers that are sort of taking the place of Satan in a very specific way. Namely, they travel back in time and they make bargains with people. Oh, you want to be famous. Oh, you want to be brilliant. Oh, you want to be rich. And then they go through the sort of time stream and adjust small things to make that happen for those people. And so there are plenty of people who have traded, not necessarily their souls. What we decided was, instead of trading their souls, a few decades from now, we will get to hunt you. You are the most dangerous prey. And so we will travel through time and hunt celebrities, basically. I don't know. It was really weird. And we went in not having like a tone conversation or anything like that. And as a result, we had a very, very strange game. So we were like stranded in 2016 and we're like, okay, we got to find other celebrities who've made bargains with us. In other words, we're trying to think of celebrities who've died this year. David Bowie was off the table because he was one of us. He was the thin white Duke of Time. And, but anyway, it was a really fun game. Google Cheat Your Own Adventure Jelly Saw Games because, Ray Otis did a great little, very printable version of it.
That is a neat little peanut butter and chocolate combo, Rory story cubes and Cheat Your Own Adventure.
Yeah, yeah. Not every combination of Rory's story cubes, on a dice throw is going to be gold, but it's good for jogging the imagination.
Neat.
Anything else you want to share about that, Steve?
That's all.
All right. I will tell you about Singularity. Singularity is a game from Ginger Goat. Josh T. Jordan and Caitlin Bell worked together on this. It was kickstarted earlier this year, 2016, and came out to backers. I backed on the PDF level, so I already had it in my hot little hands and had been looking at it for a while. Ran it for the Intercontinental Group of Awesome, because really they're the only group of people that I was brave enough to give this thing a shot. It is a LARP where the players are putting on a futuristic transhumanity dating show. One person is the host. They're effectively the facilitator. Another person is the star. They're the person who's looking for that one true, person. By the way, person very loose. We'll get to that in just a moment. And everyone else will be a contestant. The contestants are kind of the cell. It is a post-human, transhuman idea. There are characters such as the Dead Planet. There is a sentient MMORPG. There is, I've enjoyed the character, the computer who monitors everything. And there are dozens of these really interesting characters that are part of the game, all pre-written up, and it's made to hand out because this is supposed to be a LARP. Of course, I don't have a group where I would LARP, so I decided to run this over Hangouts. It's structured around certain scenes. You have an introductory scene where the host introduces the concept, and all of the main characters, the star and the contestants, does a little bit of get to know you with each of them. Then there's a group date that is followed up by a second date. The second date happens off screen, and then the host will bring the star and that contestant back on to talk about things that happened on the date. Which is pretty fun, right? Because then you're making it up and you can seed in some little questions to create tension or to ask for certain romantic moments, and they have to kind of extemporaneously come up with it.
You do a second date for each contestant?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, good.
So the group date is supposed to be the entire group, and it's all just it's a mixer, really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then the second date is the one-on-one type of scenario, but that doesn't happen on screen. And then after that, the star chooses who they want to go on their third date, who they made the greatest connection with, and that's it. That's the whole game. It's built to play as a LARP in hour and a half. So it's quick to get quote-unquote to the table, and over and done. Our play was 54 minutes. Wow. With a couple breaks. Once I cut those breaks out, the YouTube video of it is 54 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Some things I loved about it. The characters are really cool. Like, there are so many of them. They have their own little personality quirks, and there's one that wants to carry parasites, because that is, they're alien parasites that have to have a human host, and so they know that they're going to go through this weird period of like gestation where their bodies will change for X number of, I think months or years. So they all have these like things that are their issue that they're trying to deal with, but they're still looking for connection with someone. All of the characters were not only interesting and wild and really kind of out there, they all had an aspect of humanity you could really relate to. And that was really touching. The setting maps really well to a Hangout game. I had a feeling that it might, and overall, other than one little aspect I'll talk about in a minute, it ran over Hangouts really well. And props to the Intercontinental Group of Awesome. Jan played the star. He was the Dead Planet, and he had abandonment issues because he had species that used to inhabit him, and one species destroyed the other in an intergalactic war, and then they left the planet because they trashed it. So, he had some issues, which was pretty amazing. I'm not really versed in LARP, so there was a lot of trepidation coming into this. As I mentioned earlier, Intercontinental Group of Awesome, we've got Jan and Jules, who are very, very experienced in LARP. They do LARP all the time. And so I kind of just said, I'm putting myself in your hands, guys. Help me out. I may screw this up badly. And it was a game that's it felt as if it was written for people who've played LARPs, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. There were some assumptions in the text that I didn't quite get. I kind of felt the way that I did when I first read Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And I'm like, I don't feel very advanced right now. I don't understand this.
I find that really interesting, actually. Can you pinpoint anything that was sort of assumed in the text that you didn't really understand?
Instructions for the host. When you get to the second date, ask a few questions. Probe about some things that they say. Try to create conflict.
Yeah, okay.
That's it. That's your safety net, bro. You got like a strip of 3 feet safety net, and then of anything to the left and right, you better just aim yourself well while you fall. That's all I'm saying. Luckily, my safety net was my group, right? And I think that we experienced a lot of people. They could jump in, they could make this sing. But for a person who's on the outside looking in, this is the first time I've ever facilitated anything LARPish. I mean, I guess View Scream's close, but not really. It's a lot more structured. It was a little scary, but we pulled it off. Another thing about the game that you have to be careful is that, like I said, these are some pretty out there characters. The tendency, especially when you're talking about the possibility of romance, is to take it to 11, right? Is to be zany, to potentially be comedic. And I could see people doing that and having fun. But as you guys know from my history of whining about Fiasco, like, I did not want that to happen. And so we had a conversation at the outset. Hey guys, and even there is a bit of the text saying, hey, respect these characters as individuals, as persons, and try not to mock them, right? You can play things up for fun, but remember that they all, at their core, have an issue they're dealing with that someone that you're playing with may also identify with. So be careful about that. And I thought that was really thoughtful, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it because it helped me to communicate, hey, I really want to explore this. I mean, I don't want to sit here and cry about it, right? I don't want to call this 6 tears out of 5. But I didn't want to just have a yuck it up time. You know, does that make sense, guys?
That's a hard balance to strike, sir.
It was, but I had some expert players who really pulled it off. So the only thing about playing it over Hangouts is that when you play over Hangouts, having a group conversation is kind of a recipe for disaster, right? Because you're going to have a bunch of people talk over top of each other.
That's very true.
So if there's no order of operations, if the host isn't directing like, hey, Dead Planet, why don't you talk to the MMO? Like, if I don't direct those conversations in that group date, it was a little awkward because the rules state host step away and then they can all just talk, which in a physical space makes sense. No problem whatsoever. Over Hangouts, got to do it differently. Luckily, Jan just intuited that this is going to fail, and he kind of stepped in and started leading the conversation. And man, that was my favorite scene. Probably because I couldn't screw anything up because I just stepped away. As long as you have that in mind, this game maps to Hangouts really well because you're mugging for the camera. You know, you're doing a dating show, and all the action is kind of like the Greek chorus. It's all happening off screen, and then you're talking about it to the host.
And there's supposed to be cameras during that time anyway. Yeah, that works.
Right. It was super fun. Like, I'm really happy. When I read it the first time through, I said, I don't even know how to make this work. Like, I don't even understand what I'm supposed to do. And then I walked away from it, and I came back a month later, and I'll be honest with you, I listed up like 6 possible games to the group, and they all voted for Singularity. I'm like, okay, fine. And we let them push me into it. And of course I had the trepidation I talked about. These guys lifted it up and they really made the game fun. It was fun. I really want to give it another shot. It's kind of like View Scream. Like, this is super cool, but I could play it even though the general thrust is going to be the same every time. I can play different characters and see how those permutations work, you know?
Okay. So I was going to ask about how you felt about replayability. That sort of, at least somewhat addresses that. Do you feel like you could come back with the same group even and have fun with it?
Because there's so many different characters and each of the characters are really interesting and fun. And then watching the mix of it, it's almost, oh, well, I've beaten Super Mario, but I haven't played as Yoshi. I haven't played through as Luigi. Well, I know that Princess Peach has got some really cool powers, and maybe on this level I can do that cool, awesome move that only she can pull off. That's the kind of fun that you could potentially have with the game. Well, that's all I had to say about Singularity. I see 3 letters, and I don't understand what that means. What is OCI?
So OCI is something I've talked about a couple of times in the show. It's Ocean City Interface. And
yes. Oh, cool. For some reason, I was thinking spy something. Tell us about OCI.
So this is the game that is structured with sort of a near future world as the baseline, but then the characters go into these portals that are different worlds and experience stories in those worlds. And there's a larger meta story going on. There's a larger investigation going on there across that. And we've talked about before the challenge of doing those kinds of shifts. Steve, when we talked about the King in Yellow, we talked about the difficulty that they're going to do something where the characters have continuity across, and how do you handle that? Here, the thing is the players are pretty good about carrying the story through and feeling that, but sometimes you get information in one place and you can't really use it for a bunch of sessions, and we come back. So there's some act breaks in there that are kind of a problem. I try to put things in very tight chunks, like when they went into this Assassins of the Golden Age portal, and it was a pair of very discrete stories. They got clear objectives, and they learned some other things about the real world there, but it was very clear and broken up. And I have to kind of keep that in mind, not to make it overly complicated there. Which, telling it now as I'm saying it, sounds overly complicated, even as I'm talking about it.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah. I'm very lucky that this is a group. It's a face-to-face group. It's 4 players I've played with for decades, and they like mysteries. They take notes. They asked for this. They really wanted to play this. So the reason I bring this up is I did something that I really liked. It worked really well for me, and I wanted to talk about it because I think it's kind of neat and uses the structure here. So they had an arc in the real world where they had found out about one of these factions that's manipulating things, and that they were carrying out this operation, and the PCs decided, well, we're going to go and we're going to bust in while they're doing this other thing, and we're going to carry out kind of a raid and rescue a person and take some stuff. And that came at the end of a bunch of sessions. So I try to have no more than 6 sessions in any one sort of state. And so we kind of had gotten to the end of that time in that game, and I needed to break it. So I broke it off right with them having made that plan to go in. And the next session, rather than going on to the big portal that they were going to do, I sent them back to an earlier one, this Neo Shinobi Vendetta Cyberpunk Ninjas thing. And I said, we're doing this one shot that I need to play test for Origins. And essentially, in the one shot, the ninja have been mind wiped, and they find themselves, they've been hit by this sort of mind wipe EMP. They're in the middle of a mission. They have no idea what they're doing. They have no idea what's going on. They have no idea what objectives they've completed. I've got cards for what equipment they have on them, and they have to figure out what they need to do, what they've done, where they need to go, and solve that problem. And I've run that a couple of times, and it works really, really well.
Did you use the phrase mind wipe EMP?
Yeah.
Okay. All
Isn't
right.
that great?
No,
I
I'm
like
on board.
That one. Yeah. It's a great GM fiat for that. Both times I run it, the players have enjoyed it. They love trying to figure out. I give them a big list of stuff, and at least one of them is just a big red button, and they don't know what it does. So super fun. But I did that for one shot, and then I went and I did this Assassins of the Golden Age, sort of my Assassin's Creed / Mage the Sorcerer's Crusade homage. So then we just finished that, and it popped them back to the real world. And this is after 7 sessions of playing that. So it's been some time in real time, because we play every other week. And when they came in immediately, just like I did with the Ninja Portal, they came back to the real world, and they found that they were actually in the middle of their raid, that something had happened to their memories. They had no idea how they had gotten in there. They had no idea what they were doing. And they had to figure it out. It was really successful. It meant that I brought them back in medias res. So rather than after 6, 7, that's 14 weeks. Rather than having to sit down and going, okay, now you got to play in your raid, we just did it with no planning. We just assumed all that, and they dug that. So it was a nice parallel. It solved some of the problems of that structure, and the players really liked it. So I felt very good about that. So the foreshadowing and then playing it out. I don't know how I'd replicate that elsewhere, but I thought it was pretty fun.
I applaud the skipping of planning. That's not really my jam. It's fun to jump into the things and just assume we figured this would happen. Just, operate on that assumption's fun.
I will say that over the years, I've tried to find all the kinds of ways of skirting planning, stealing stuff from Blades in the Dark and,
there we go. I was going to mention that, yeah.
Retcon stuff and trying to get that quick. I used to be at the table, I'd let them plan until, the cows came home. But now I'm like, okay, time's up. Let's go.
Have you guys played the Leverage RPG? I hear it handles things in an interesting ways, but I've never actually played it.
I have it, but there's something about Cortex that I cannot get. I have like almost all the Cortex books, and I do not understand that system. I even played the Marvel game one session at a con, and I was like, oh, this is very cool. And then like a week later, I went back to the rules and I was like, okay, I don't understand how this works. I'm not wired for it in some way. But the Leverage game looks cool. So I might go and try to read it again and get flummoxed once more.
I have not played Leverage. I've played some Cortex, Smallville, a hack of the Firefly RPG that we did, but have not played Leverage. It interests me. Have you guys ever heard of Wilderness of Mirrors by John Wick?
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that one skirts planning as well, right?
It does. The players are supposed to come up with a loose plan that basically arms up the GM, and then as you go in, you're doing the plan, but it's just like 4-point plan. It's like really super, and then the GM will add details of stuff that they're supposed to have all of the details, and they just lay out, this is exactly how it will pan down because we are super spies and we've done the perfect amount of research. And so they don't have to actually do the research. They're just telling the GM, this is how we do the thing. And then the GM gets to present complications, which is exactly how it happens in a James Bond film.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we're supposed, Q said, go here. And it turns out that they're different. And it works really well. It's pretty cool. You have to definitely have people who are bought in on the spy genre. You cannot have randos show up and play Wilderness of Mirrors, or it will fall apart.
Well, now that I think about it, the Sprawl tries to push a compression of the planning phase because it has the clocks that you can't plan too much. And you're also generating intel and gear as a resource that you spend during the actual operation to abstract that. And that's another way around it. Gumshoe has preparedness as a stat, and that's to spend to get things once you've gone in.
That was a really cool thing about my, my overall not so cool experience with Nice Black Agents. I did like the preparedness skill. That was pretty cool.
The more we can do that, the better.
Yeah.
Anything more about OCI that you want to share with us, Lowell?
No, I'm good. I talked it up.
All right. Well, let's head to break.
Hey, it's Jason. You're not getting away from me that easily. I wanted to let you know that this episode of the Gauntlet podcast is being sponsored by Nocturnal Media. So listeners, if you live in Houston, Texas, and we know many of you do since that's where the Gauntlet got its start, we wanted to let you know that Stuart Wick, who owns Nocturnal Media, has recently purchased Asgard Games. Asgard Games is a popular game store in Houston, but it's been mostly known for wargaming. As I recall, role-playing games were pretty much non-existent on their shelves when I lived there. But Stuart's determined to change that. He's going to begin carrying more role-playing game products, including indie RPGs, and I believe the local Gauntlet group is going to be running some face-to-face games there, which is pretty exciting. So go check out Asgard Games, and if you see Stuart around the store, tell him that you heard about the changes he's making to the store on the Gauntlet podcast. Thanks again to Stuart and Nocturnal Media for sponsoring our show.
And now it's time for Giving Me Life. I'm pretty excited because Dog Eat Dog is now available on DriveThru.RPG. I picked this up on a bundle of holding that came out a while back, but it was one of those games that we played. Jason ran it for me as a Saturday morning cartoons thing. I appreciated the experience, right? Saying I enjoyed Dog Eat Dog would be incorrect because it is not the kind of game where you play to have fun. Does that make sense? Dog Eat Dog is about colonialism. You're going to be playing a subjugated people, and the GM effectively has fiat out the wazoo, and it is supposed to, emulate that existence to give you a feel of it. It's even just a whiff of it. And I appreciated that. And I think it's a well-written game. It's very interesting. It is now available on DriveThru.Open. It's currently pay what you want.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Link in the show notes. Give this game a shot. It is well worth your time. It is a different kind of experience than anything that I have played ever. And it's rare after decades. You three of us were pretty old. Getting new experiences in RPGs is kind of a welcome thing every once in a while.
True.
I want to share an anecdote about it, actually, because I haven't played it. Shut Up and Sit Down did a beautiful text review of it that actually terrified me. But when I was at Origins a couple of years ago, Rishi Agrawal, he was taking it and he was running it. And he told me a story. He had taken it and he was very open about, okay, well, let's build the setting and stuff. And apparently at the table, this group of bros kind of made it sort of, laser guns and sci-fi and things like that, and threw in all this gonzo stuff. And he said, that's okay. By the end, they felt terrible. Even having put all those trappings on it, the core issue and the core play came through and kind of overcame that, which I thought was really, really, really cool.
That is cool. I would not imagine that.
Yeah.
Dang. That's awesome.
Yeah,
He's good people too.
Oh,
so that's a good story.
He is one of the best.
Yep. Steve, what is giving you life? I see this on the outline. Gotta know. What is this thing?
Okay. So I'm taking this from a blog post, basically. And so I only know a little bit about this, but it's called Open NSFW, Open _ not safe for work. And, Yahoo is operating in similar territory to what Google was doing last year. If you guys heard of, I think it's called Deep Dream, where they had the sort of art creating, AI. AI is probably not the right term, but it basically, it creates out of randomness bizarre images. And Yahoo's purpose here is to create a system that can analyze images and look for not safe for work elements, presumably so that there's, easy filters that businesses can use to prevent Larry from sending Jim some pictures of boobs or whatever at work. There'll be links in the show notes. I'll provide a link here. A lot of the blog post is equations and stuff. It just goes over my head. Just show me the pretty pictures. And so what they programmed this system to do is, first they programmed it to identify images that are not safe for work and that are safe for work. And you program it with existing pictures, right? Here's what safe for work looks like. And that can be any number of things. So, when you tell it to then take that input and generate safe for work images, it basically does this out of its input and out of randomness. It doesn't take extant pictures necessarily, not whole cloth. So it generates safe for work pictures. And of course, you program it with lots of porn and it generates these horrific alien monstrosities that have, pink knobby bits. And yeah, it's truly awful. But that's not even the fun part. The fun part is the guy writing this blog post, took that one step further and gave it very specific safe for work input. So he would have themes okay, these are beach or crashing waves, right? That's a bunch of pictures of that as the input, and then would tell the system to create images that are safe for work and that feature, that theme, right? So you'll get a bunch of, crashing waves with it was clearly pictures of surfers and that sort of thing, right? So there'd be crashing waves and there's a lot of sort of at the center of these crashing waves, there's a darkness, and the system can't quite make out what that darkness is supposed to be. It's probably a surfer. And then for the not safe for work one, the folds of the waves and of the ocean turn into something altogether different. And so he's got these great themed sets, and there's one, I think my favorite one is concert is the theme, basically. It's like dark and purple and blue, and please generate safe for work concert images. Again, it's lots of pictures of person on stage as the focal point. And you can tell the system has the stage geometry down. It's got that square, above the stage, and it's got the lighting right. And then it's just a lot of, there's I wouldn't say humanoid. There's a figure that if you squint could maybe be a person on what looks like a stage. Okay, that's the safe for work stuff. And the not safe for work stuff is the same, except that kind of, but not really a person is replaced by, that's just a dick. That's just a cock wandering around on stage. There's another great one that is the input is volcanoes. And so the output, the safe for work output, those are volcanoes. It's really good at those. And probably my favorite picture out of the whole series is one of the not safe for work ones that's just a volcano. And is that a magma anus? Yes, I believe it is. It's a very entertaining read slash look. I kind of want to take some of those images, some of the ones with more general input, and like just show players in a game that, you break into this guy's apartment. Here's his art. Cause some of it's really, really disturbing and horrifying for like unsettling, I will say. But it's a great, entertaining 30 minutes or so you can spend with that blog post.
Oh man, it does sound like a chaos god, like art gallery, like Slaanesh or something.
Right. Yeah, unknown armies kind of crazy.
Right.
Definitely. Wow, thanks, Steve.
Holy
You're
cow.
welcome.
How do I follow that up?
So sorry, Lowell. I'm so sorry. Because the thing is, coming into this, I was most excited for your giving me life. Now, good luck.
Well, I gotta tell you, brother, we are doing Gauntlet League Wrestling. And it's gonna be 2017. It's gonna be the year of Gauntlet League Wrestling. We're gonna be doing it on Sunday mornings. We're going to have a whole season. We're going to have people there, and they're going to do things, and we're going to wrestle, and we're going to see who's going to walk away with the gauntlet, brother. So you got to check that out. Worldwide Wrestling is a rule set. It's awesome. If you want to try a session, if you want to try 2 sessions, you want to try even 3 sessions, you want to try all the sessions. You could play all the games. So you come in, you get your wrestler, and it is going to rock the house. So that's what we're doing for next year as part of the Gauntlet Hangouts. Worldwide Wrestling. I'm kind of a novice, but I'm going to be running it. I really want to get people, if you're curious about it, just come and play in this damn thing, because it is hella fun. Make a wrestler play. It's super fun. Even if you don't like wrestling, it's pure drama, pure fun. So do that.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I fell out of love with actual wrestling many decades ago. Did I care about it at all? But Worldwide Wrestling as an RPG, super fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, that leads us towards our end. If you want to play this game, just like Lowell said, you want to hop on Gauntlet-RPG or -RPG.com. You can find the link to our G Plus community. You can find all of our shows, not only the Gauntlet Prime, as I like to think of it, but also +1 Forward, as well as Discern Realities and even Pocket Size Play. We've got other stuff that's in the hopper. You can get a link to our Patreon and support us there. People who have $7 contributions, can they get into, by the time this comes out, will all the Gauntlet League Wrestling stuff be up, Lowell?
At least the first 3 sessions will be up. All the January sessions are up.
Fantastic. And everybody who's $7 patrons have the opportunity. They get a week head start. And then it's open to everybody. So if you want to put yourself on the wait list, you never know when things will juggle around. So we have reached the end of the 80th episode of the Gauntlet. We're venerable now. I've heard that that's a noteworthy number. It's round. It's just like the infinity symbol turned up, and then
we're octa something now.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Yeah.
We're not octogenarians, I don't think.
No, they might be.
Yeah. Octopodcastinarians, I think.
Fair enough.
That's the one.
Thank you so much, listeners, for giving us a listen, and for 80 episodes, or just this one episode. If you want to start from here and go forward, we appreciate it. Feedback is always welcome. Ratings on iTunes would be fantastic. Spread the word. Lowell, how can people find you, sir?
I blog at Age of Ravens. You can also check me out on G+ or on Twitter.
Thank you. Steve, can anyone find you at this point?
Technically, I'm on G+. He said.
All right.
Technically.
Awesome. And you can find me at Orklord on Twitter and also on Google Plus as well. Thank you so much, guys.
Why, thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
Thank you, listeners. Okay, you guys good for giving me life? I want to go first because mine, I'm calling an audible again, but I'm not going to announce this in audible. I'm going to act like this was my plan all along.
From context, I know what you're meaning, but why are you calling it that?
I had notes for a different thing, and I scratched it out because Dog Eat Dog was just released on DriveThru, and I was going to talk about that.
Why are you calling it inaudible?
Okay, in football, when you go up to the line,
that's why I don't know what you're talking
game
about.
plan, then you realize the defense looks fucked up versus what I'm doing. I'm going to call an audible to do a different play. That's
Okay.
exactly what I mean.
I've already forgotten what you just said.
Like, am I inaccurate? Like, I haven't watched football in ages.
Oh,
but
no, I have
that's
no
how
idea.
I remember it. Is it
That's
different
exactly
now?
right.
Okay, good.
I know that from Madden. Not from actual sports ball, but from video games.
If you accept Lin-Manuel Miranda's Dark Bargain, turn to page 666.